Part 125. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1241. Behind him, it seemed that someone was in charge of all this. Read. At this time, Lin Yi also frowned slightly, because in his eyes, this strange human figure had a problem. There were actually 3 true lives in the other party's body, and he could understand that 2 of them belonged to the 2 lovers. But what about the last true life? His heart moved slightly. The work of the Doomsday Cult. They made a move here. Why did they do this? Lin Yi immediately realized the seriousness of the problem. At this time, the monster formed by the fusion of the 3 true lives did not pay attention to him, but walked towards Paraoman in front of him step by step. The accents of the male and female voices kept echoing, "You want to kill me just for the inheritance right. It's all you, it's all you, it's all you. We died so miserably. Do you know how painful it was when I was shot?" The weird voice, the distorted face, the 2 protagonists of the ghost story, seemed to be unable to control themselves and had some weird outburst. Paraoman kept waving his hands, and his face became more and more terrifying. "Don't come over, don't come over. It's not my fault, it's not my fault. It's their fault. I don't want to do this. You want revenge, go and take revenge on them." Waving his hands and kicking his feet, he kept moving backwards, as if he wanted to get rid of the ghost story approaching him. The whole body of the ghost story figure began to twist strangely. The next moment, it turned into a grey smoke and rushed towards Paraoman on the ground. At this moment, Lin Yi appeared silently beside Paraoman. Then he pulled casually, and Paraoman had disappeared here with him. When they appeared again, the 2 of them had come to the boundary of this apartment. At this time, the outside was shrouded in an inexplicable distortion, dividing the inside and the outside. Lin Yi originally wanted to get out from here, but he found that this distortion contained an inexplicable mysterious power. If he wanted to use the true destiny to go there, the digestion would be very huge. At least half of his spiritual waves will be consumed. He immediately realized that this barrier should be a special power of this new monster. Similar to the forbidden action power of the human skin grandmother, Zhenming can only be immune when using it, but it cannot be eliminated. Now that this kind of change has occurred here, what are the people of the Doomsday Cult doing? Will I be attacked by them if I go out from here? Countless possibilities flashed through Lin Yi's mind, and his face became solemn in an instant. He always felt that this time the matter was a bit strange. Thinking of this, he did not cross this barrier, and looked at Paraoman, who was full of fear. "Who are the people you are talking about?" At this time, Paraoman's mind was a little confused, but under the influence of Lin Yi's magnetic field, he lost himself in an instant. Then he said with a confused look, "I don't know, but he suddenly appeared in front of me. He was so scary, with flames burning all over his body, like a devil. He told me that I must obey his orders, otherwise he would kill me. He would help me obtain the inheritance and become the sole heir of Ocean Department Store. Then he asked me to trick my sister and brother-in-law here, and he would have someone kill them. He only has one eye, so scary." A trace of thought flashed through Lin Yi's eyes. It seems that he is indeed a member of the Doomsday Cult, but this was 10 years ago. This may be their experimental subject, but it seems to have changed now. Thinking of this, his eyes narrowed slightly. Lin Yi has already determined that the Doomsday Cult is involved in this strange incident, and it is very dangerous when the purpose is unknown. Then let's try first. Can we cut off the logical chain from the root? At this time, a thick grey smoke was rushing out of the hall of the apartment and rushing towards Paraman. A distorted face in the character roared angrily. "Where are you running to? I'll make you pay with your life." Ah! With a crazy and weird roar, pairs of weird arms spread out from the smoke and grabbed Paraman. This time Lin Yi did not stop them, but left here in a flash and stood a few meters away. Paraman looked at the pale arms that seemed to be caught by him, and fear appeared on his face. No. No, help, help. But no one would save him at this time. In an instant, he was grabbed by more than a dozen pairs of arms, and then suddenly pulled into the mist. In this weird gray mist, a weird face that was half male and half female had opened his mouth. This mouth had expanded to the size of a human, and it was full of fine teeth. Paraman was swallowed in fear. Amidst the horrible chewing sound, Paraman disappeared. At this time, countless smoke merged into one in the distortion and turned into a huge figure. This figure was wearing a strange tattered robe, and the faces that were originally divided into male and female had changed. A third face grew on the forehead of this face, and this third face squeezed the other two faces, seeming to take the initiative. At this time, in Lin Yi's eyes, the true destiny represented by this third face was filled with countless black lines, deeply piercing into the other two true destinies. The original balanced pattern seemed to be broken, and it became a monopoly. Then, the strange face in the tattered robe revealed a terrifying aura. The third face on the forehead was an extremely deformed face. The empty eyes could not see the eyeballs, the face was covered with green bubbles, and a terrifying mouth was cracked, with a black tongue inside. This strange face had noticed Lin Yi, and he faced Lin Yi and walked towards him. A strange voice sounded from the third face. He, let's play hide and seek. If you are caught, you lose. He, you can't run out of range. This is a child's voice, but it is full of incomparable coldness. This is definitely not a normal voice. The moment he heard this voice, Lin Yi felt something was wrong. This voice seemed to contain some kind of power, which gave him an idea in his mind to play hide and seek with the other party. This voice drove his heart, but he couldn't help but start thinking about how to hide and seek to avoid the other party's capture. Lin Yi knew that this was wrong, but he did not choose to resist this feeling. Instead, his mind turned and he began to think about hide and seek. He stepped forward and rushed into the hotel like a sharp sword. Then he quickly rushed to the third floor, found an open room and went in. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1242. At this time, the driving force in his body slowly disappeared, but he could feel that this driving force always existed in his body and could drive him to do something at any time. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Is this strange ability? Blocking the surrounding space, and driving others to hide and seek. Just then, a strange voice soon sounded outside the corridor. I'm here to catch you, I know you're here. He, if I catch you, just treat you as my toy. The strange voice kept approaching here. Lin Yi could feel the impulse in his heart rising again, asking him to find a safer place to hide. This impulse washed over his head like a tide, making his heart vibrate wildly. His brows frowned slightly, and he looked at the house where he was. This was an ordinary apartment with an independent balcony outside. He walked over in a few steps, tapped his feet lightly, and his body, like a phantom dragon, flipped through the balcony to the next level. At this time, the door below was opened with a bang, and a figure rushed out from inside. It was the original body of the ghost story in a tattered robe. Lin Yi's eyes were slightly solemn, and a thought flashed through his mind. This kind of fusion ghost story incident, simply destroying the root of a ghost story cannot completely eliminate them. This second freak actually asked me to play hide and seek, so naturally I have to follow the rules of hide and seek. With the light of the true destiny solution flashing in his eyes, he immediately saw the black lines in the air. They were distributed in every corner like a spider web. Lin Yi found that he would touch these black lines everywhere, but these black lines would not entangle himself. Instead, they would spread wonderful vibrations like spiders, as if they were transmitted to the source of the black lines. Lin Yi's heart moved slightly, so that's it, I understand. With the light of the true destiny solution flashing in his eyes, he looked at the ground under his feet. That was the source of all the black lines. The existence of the protagonist of the ghost story seemed to feel the ripples of the black lines and looked up. He seemed to see Lin Yi's eyes, and a more twisted and weird smile appeared on his face. "I found you." But at this moment, a faint sneer appeared at the corner of Lin Yi's mouth. The power of boundless and constant true destiny exploded in an instant, and he disappeared here like a stream of light. The mysterious monster was stunned for a moment, and completely lost the sense of Lin Yi, as if the other party disappeared from this world. The next moment, Lin Yi appeared outside the hotel, where the monster was standing at the beginning. If it is hide and seek, then the person being hunted must return to the ghost's lair to win. Everything started from here, so my appearance here is considered to be following the rules of hide and seek and winning. As Lin Yi appeared here, the power of true destiny slowly dissipated, and he came into contact with the real world again. His eyes were shining with the light of the true destiny. Nothing could escape his capture. He was waiting for the arrival of the protagonist of the strange story. A black line with it as the center spread a huge amount of ripples and spread towards the source of everything. A black smoke rushed out of the hotel and fell madly towards Lin Yi's position. Finally, it fell in front of Lin Yi, and countless smoke quickly twisted and gathered, turning into a human figure wearing tattered robes. The third face, which was originally extremely distorted, revealed the face of a good boy, although it was very strange to grow on two faces. At this time, the good boy's face was covered with a smile, full of kindness and happiness. He, you beat me, I'm very happy." As the voice fell, the strange story figure in front of him began to fall apart and turned into countless nothingness and dissipated. Finally disappeared, leaving only a mysterious light the size of a human head. 3 true destinies floated in front of him. Unexpectedly, none of the 3 true destinies had black lines, but were pure. The lovers represented by the other 2 true destinies should have eliminated all the causal sources and cut off the origin of logic. The 3rd true destinies also cleared out the black lines, which surprised him a little. Lin Yi thought thoughtfully, could it be that completing the wish of the ghost story incident will also make them disappear? No, it should be said that the completion of hide and seek is the origin of logic itself. Lin Yi walked over and grabbed the mysterious light the size of a human head with one hand, and the light flowed into his heart. The distorted barriers around were slowly disappearing, and the whole world returned to the state of reality. All the abnormalities had disappeared, and at this time, Lin Yi turned his eyes and looked behind him. Zhao Hongxia looked at her back with a vigilant face as if she was facing a great enemy. Scholars, Black Rose, and beasts have appeared there. Zhao Hongxia's face was a little pale, and her right hand covered his left hand, as if he was attacked. There were already 2 people lying on the ground, Absinthe and Peivatin. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi's eyes suddenly became gloomy. In a flash, he came to the side of Absinthe who was lying on the ground. The magnetic field enveloped him and he quickly knew what happened to him. At this time, Absinthe was in a dying state, and there was heavy bleeding inside his body. In particular, there was a hole in his abdomen that penetrated his waist from front to back. Peivatin on the side was even worse, with his heart directly penetrated, and he could be said to have died on the spot. Lin Yi looked up at the 3 people in front of him, and a trace of murderous intent appeared in his eyes. "It's really interesting, there are always people who want to trouble me." As soon as the voice fell, his hands were filled with the light of immortality, and he squatted slightly and raised his hand to pat Absinthe. The next moment, the power of immortality covered Absinthe's whole body. In just a moment, all the wounds began to heal, even the waist that had become a blood hole, naturally grew flesh and blood. It was as if all the wounds just now had disappeared, and they were false and non-existent. However, with 1 per 1,000 of spiritual wave consumption, Absinthe would recover to its peak state. Absinthe jumped up from the ground and looked at the 3 people in front of him with a gloomy face. "Boss, you have to be careful. These three are not easy to deal with. Martial arts are useless against them. I was caught off guard. Lin Yi smiled faintly, don't worry. Looking at Pei Vaden, who was lying on the ground, Lin Yi took a step forward, squatted down, and enveloped him with the power of immortality. He wanted to do an experiment to see if the power of immortality could bring back the lost true destiny. At this time, the true destiny that was supposed to exist in Pei Vaden's body had disappeared. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1243. With the power of immortality injected into his body was completely repaired in an instant. At the same time, Parvaden's body seemed to have produced a strange gravitational force, which penetrated deep into a mysterious point in the world. Immediately afterwards, an illusory true life emerged from the void and appeared deep in Parvaden's body. The next moment, he suddenly woke up with a shudder all over his body. Damn! His whole body was tense, his muscles tightened, and he was in a state of high alert. But then Lin Yi's voice sounded in his ears. Don't be nervous, you have been rescued by me. At this moment, Parvaden suddenly realized that he seemed to be alive. He suddenly looked down at his chest. The place where there was a big hole had grown back, but the damaged clothes had not been repaired. At this time, a faint smile appeared on the corner of Lin Yi's mouth. His ability to survive far exceeded his imagination. Even the lost true life will be found. This kind of power is amazing. This is the only way he can currently isolate the Blue Star universe from the attraction of the hidden mysterious world to his true life. After doing all this, he slowly stood up and looked at the three people opposite. At this time, the scholars, Black Rose, and Beast all had a hint of shock in their eyes. They had never seen this kind of ability to bring the dead back to life. An excited smile appeared on the scholar's face. Ha ha ha, what a great trick. I have never seen this kind of ability that can actually revive the dead. He is worthy of being targeted by us. Lin Yi looked at their expressions and gradually said coldly, why did you hurt my people? Looking at you, it seems like you are here just for me. A faint smile appeared on the scholar's face. We are indeed here for you. Because you have mastered more than 5 kinds of true life, which is possible for kings of ancient civilizations. We want to know how you mastered so many abilities. So we are here to arrest you. If you cooperate and follow us, then we won't have to resort to force. If you refuse, then we will have to use force to make you surrender, and your companions will also be eliminated. Hearing this, Lin Yi smiled faintly. It's just you? You really don't know how to live or die? In that case, let's start a war. Let me see how much you weigh and dare to say such things to me. In an instant, his true life was boundless and his true life was full of perseverance. As soon as his figure flashed, his speed increased to the extreme and he rushed towards them. At this moment, a voice slowly sounded, stop. A mysterious force burst out in an instant. Lin Yi's body was affected, and the power of Zhenming Boundless was blocked by this force. His body stayed in mid-air for an instant, and Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of surprise. The power that exploded just now was obviously some kind of true power, and as soon as it appeared, it overwhelmed the true power he used. A faint smile appeared on the scholar's face, and he looked at him quietly. The power just now was from him, the true word of life. Black Rose on the side had a black light flashing in her eyes, and a black beam of light crossed countless distances and came to Lin Yi. It hit his head straight down, but in the next moment Lin Yi's body flashed with green light. The black beam of light passed directly through his head, but did not cause any damage. Lin Yi flashed again and was already in front of the three of them. Not bad power, but not enough. One hand has already moved towards Black Rose's eyebrows. At this moment, a black fist appeared in front of him out of thin air. The black fist is filled with a power that turns everything into nothingness. The blow came so fast, tearing apart time and space in the blink of an eye, and arrived in front of Lin Yi. Facing the sudden blow, Lin Yi felt a hint of danger. This punch can break through Zhenming Wujiang and suppress his Zhenming power. Lin Yi did not force the fight. The opponent's strength was very special. He didn't know what direction the next battle would take, so it was very important to retain his strength. With a slight dodge, he had already avoided the punch, but the moment he stepped back, a kick had already been kicked towards the opponent's abdomen. This kick is as fast as lightning and contains majestic magnetic force. At the same time, a looming magnetic field enveloped the three people. The person who punched was the beast. His whole body was filled with this black light, like a humanoid beast. His punch missed, but Lin Yi's kick had already hit his abdomen, and a feeling of danger rushed over him. He felt like he might die if he was kicked. Without any hesitation, the instinct of the beast broke out in an instant, and he pressed his hands down to block Lin Yi's kick. At the same time, the diffuse magnetic field had enveloped the three of them. At this moment, the scholar spoke loudly again. "Back off." In an instant, something strange happened. The scholar, Black Rose, and the beast all retreated naturally. The magnetic field power emitted by Lin Yi also flowed back in an instant and regrouped into his body. This change made Lin Yi slightly surprised. Is this the ability to follow the rules of words? You actually have such a real life. He immediately noticed the secret of this power and couldn't help but frown. A black light shot towards him again, but it was the mysterious power of destiny that burst out from Black Rose's eyes again. Lin Yi didn't care about the beast and Black Rose. Their power was purely destructive and easy to deal with. Even if they were in his magnetic field, they would be affected by his mind. The only difficult one was the scholar, whose power was too magical. In the state of boundless destiny, his speed could be infinitely increased. In another moment, his speed exploded. The figure disappeared, and he had come behind the three people who retreated violently. The beast seemed to have noticed his movements and turned around and appeared in front of him. His speed and movements were so fast that they completely surpassed normal humans. Lin Yi immediately noticed the changes in the other party. It's not just physical ability, but some kind of spatial conversion. Just as he was thinking, the beast showed him a strange smile. The beast disappeared in front of him with a strange smile, and Lin Yi looked down at his chest. A black fist pierced through his vest, and the terrifying black light was destroying his body. The sudden injury surprised him. At this moment, the destructive power of the opponent's true destiny erupted, exceeding the upper limit of the normal true destiny, causing damage to him. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1244. The next moment, Lin Yi disappeared behind them and appeared several meters away. Read. His chest was broken, and a bloody hole appeared. But the ability of immortality had taken effect, and his wounds recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lin Yi showed a faint smile on his face. You are the first to hurt me after I got the ability. It's really quite interesting. Each of you has mastered more than 2 abilities, and this is the first time I have seen such a person. What are your names? The scholar smiled slightly. You can call me Scholar. The big guy here is called Beast, and this beautiful woman is called Black Rose. We are the 12 great knights of the Doomsday cult. Are you going to follow us now, Mr. Lin Yi? We are very sincere about the secrets you have. Lin Yi smiled slightly when he heard this. Your abilities are indeed good, and your strength is unexpectedly strong, but you are still not qualified to catch me. Just now you won half a point, and next I will show my real strength. True destiny is boundless, true destiny is persistent, and it instantly rises to a higher level. At this time, Lin Yi becomes illusory, as if he does not exist in the world. Combined with the martial arts ability of this body, it is invincible, and then he moves. As if shrinking the earth into an inch, he was behind the three people in the blink of an eye. He slapped the beast's head with one palm. The beast's pupils shrank, and it disappeared in front of his eyes in a flash. Lin Yi casually slapped it behind. An arm penetrated his body again, but this time it could not suppress his boundless true destiny, so it could not cause any harm to him. One of his hands had already slapped on the beast's chest, and the boundless true destiny allowed his palm to penetrate the layer of black light on the other party's body. It fell directly on the other party's chest, and the violent power exploded, and the ability of the true destiny to transform all things burst out. The beast's chest turned into a piece of petrification in an instant, and it was still spreading rapidly towards the other party's body. At this time, a voice sounded slowly. "Recover." An invisible force enveloped the beast, and his petrified chest and the disturbed magnetic field of his body instantly returned to their original state, and Lin Yi's life force was offset. However, this time the scholar's eyebrows were blue with veins, and a trace of sweat dripped from his forehead. Obviously, it was not easy to block Lin Yi's attack. At this moment, a mysterious force suddenly appeared in Lin Yi's mind. This force made his spirit and soul seem to have suffered a severe blow, and he fell into a drowsy state. "You are very tired, close your eyes." At this time, Black Rose's eyes flashed with strange eyes and stared at Lin Yi. At this critical moment, a spiritual power also broke out, directly enveloped Lin Yi, and blocked the attacking force. Black Rose frowned and turned to look at Zhao Hongxia. "Mind controller Zhao Hongxia, are you looking for death?" As soon as the voice fell, a black light shot out as if it crossed time and space. This time, Absinthe took action, and he raised his hand and pulled, and Zhao Hongxia dodged this black light. At this time, this black light turned in the air and locked them again. But Absinthe seemed to be able to predict all the attacks, jumping back and forth easily, dodging one attack after another. "I only heard Kueiju say with a distorted face, 'Hee, I was hit by you just now, but I was not prepared. It's not that easy now.'" But Absinthe was not at ease at this time. After all, it was an attack from a true strong man. He completely relied on the high realm of martial arts and the perfect control of himself, and predicted the trajectory in advance to avoid the attack. Although he could not directly resist this kind of power, this kind of pure attack always had a chance to follow. And this trace can be rehearsed in his consciousness, which is the effect of the powerful realm and independent consciousness in the past. Black Rose saw that Absinthe could dodge his attack flexibly with Zhao Hongxia, a burden, and a trace of shock was recorded in his eyes. The opponent's movements were smooth, as if all his attacks were expected by the opponent. At this time, Zhao Hongxia suddenly increased her strength, and a powerful spiritual power descended on Black Rose. Black Rose's face froze, the black light she controlled paused for a moment, the strange light in her eyes kept flashing, and a layer of powerful spiritual power burst out from her eyes. The space between Black Rose and Zhao Hongxia has produced an inexplicable distortion. This distortion is invisible and all people who see it will have their minds twisted instinctively. At this time, the war between Lin Yi, the beast, and the scholar is also in full swing. Lin Yi's actions are like the wind. The powerful true fate can always ignore the attacks of the two. The two need to constantly increase the strength of the true fate to barely suppress Lin Yi. But this suppression can only succeed for a moment, because Lin Yi will also increase the true fate in the next moment to get rid of their attacks and restraints. The scholar is mainly trapped and the beast is mainly attacked. The cooperation between the two is almost seamless. If it is an ordinary person who has mastered the ability of true fate, I am afraid that he has already been defeated. In particular, the ability of the scholar is ever-changing and can almost restrain any ability. But there is another premise for the mutual restraint of true fate, that is, the upper limit of the total amount. Just like fire and water, fire can overcome water, and water can overcome fire, it just depends on which one is bigger. The fight between the true destiny is very similar to this situation. A finger broke the beast's forehead, and in just a moment, the beast's head completely turned into a piece of gravel, and it was about to be completely destroyed. But a voice like a command sounded. Invalid. The strange voice sounded in an instant, and the head that had turned into gravel turned back to its original state again, and even the disappeared vitality returned at the same time. All these battles were completed in an instant, and the beast's face was furious. In the short fight just now, he had died at least 3 times, which made him extremely angry. Go to hell. The next moment, Lin Yi, who used the true destiny to appear behind the beast again, suddenly froze. He suddenly found that his eyes were blurred, and then a huge fist went straight through his head. The next moment, his eyes went black, and he knew that his head had been broken just now. But the next moment, his boundless and immortal destiny burst out, and he had silently recovered to his original state and appeared 3 meters away. A voice slowly sounded, backflow. A strange force acted on him, and his head seemed to be shattered again at this moment, and his immortal destiny was suppressed. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1245. With a slight movement in his heart, the operation of the immortality of the true destiny rose to a new level again. In an instant, this force was broken and could no longer affect him. In a few minutes, after a series of fights, Lin Yi knew the combat power of these great knights. It was definitely not low. Each person had at least mastered 2 true destinies. In his eyes, he had actually seen that each of these 3 people had mastered 3 true destinies. But from beginning to end, these people only showed 2 true destinies. Everyone kept a bottom of the box power that was not shown. Especially the scholar, this guy only used the power of 1 true destiny from beginning to end, which was obviously hidden deeper. Although Lin Yi had 6 true destinies, almost all of them were auxiliary true destinies. But relying on these 6 true destinies, he could ignore almost all damage, and no power could really kill him. Facing the 3 leaders who came to him this time, he also felt a little pressure. For the first time, he was not sure to simply solve the enemy. He sighed helplessly and flashed back to the 3 people of Absinthe. He looked at the 3 people in front of him from a distance. You are really powerful and have caused me a lot of trouble. To deal with you, there will be certain risks. You can't do anything to me. It's a waste of time to continue. Let's stop here today. Lin Yi looked at them calmly, and the beast's face was ferocious and roared. You said stop, so stop. Who do you think you are? After saying that, his whole body was shining with black light, and his figure was blurred. It was obvious that he was going to attack again. Lin Yi frowned, and his eyes suddenly showed a trace of coldness. You are shameless. In this case, I will take some risks to deal with you. His eyes narrowed slightly, and an inexplicable threat emanated from him. At this moment, everyone trembled in their hearts, as if something extremely vicious was about to break out. The scholar suddenly said, Stop. The beast, whose shape was blurry, suddenly shook and solidified, looking at the scholar. Why are you stopping me? Let's go. The beast was angry when he heard it, but Wild Rose next to him put a hand on his shoulder. The beast's face changed, and then he grabbed the arms of the scholar and Wild Rose, and disappeared here in the next moment. A storm ended so abruptly. Zhao Hongxia showed a trace of surprise on her face. They left so easily. Lin Yi thought, it seems that their strength is almost exhausted. Or they think they have figured out my situation. If they come next time, there will be more strong people. Zhao Hongxia nodded, and a trace of solemnity appeared in her eyes. Then is this matter over? Lin Yi nodded slightly. Let's retreat first. We have to be more careful next time. There is a problem inside you. This time, the ghost story incident has also been tampered with. It is a fusion ghost story incident. Before we came here, the trap was already set. Zhao Hengxia's face suddenly became gloomy when she heard this. She naturally knew that there was a problem inside them. Someone must have leaked their whereabouts in advance, otherwise, the doomsday cult would not appear so coincidentally. Thinking of this, her face became more indifferent, and she said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, I will conduct a major investigation inside and must find their spies." Lin Yi nodded slightly, and turned his head to look at the hotel that had returned to normal. "It's really interesting that the doomsday cult would target me. You want to find a way to master multiple true destinies from me. Grand Knight level? Everyone has 3 true destinies, and this combat power has surpassed most of the God-given ability users. Although there are many people with more than 3 true destinies in the huge human group, it seems that not many can awaken their abilities." Thinking of this, he couldn't help but fall into thinking again. Humans seem to be more complicated than I thought. Feeling the consumption of his spiritual waves, he consumed about 1/3 of his spiritual waves in the fight just now, but the opponent's consumption may have reached the limit. In a wilderness, 3 people appeared here. The scholar, the Black Rose and the beast, the 3 of them looked solemn at this time, not like the impulse, smile, or indifference just now. The beast said, "That guy is really strong. All our powers seem to be ineffective against him. And he has currently demonstrated at most 4 powers in the process of fighting with us. The ability to be immortal, the ability to be immune to any damage, and the ability to transform matter. The ability to be unaffected by the mind. Each of them is very dangerous. I have consumed at least 90% of my power, and his power seems to have not reached the bottom yet." The scholar nodded and looked at the beast, and said in a deep voice, "This person is really powerful, especially in the last moment, I felt the threat of death. He seems to be planning to use his full strength, and that is the level that can really threaten our lives. He is worthy of the level of the king of civilization, and his power is too profound. That's why I retreated as soon as possible. But I found a problem with the 4 abilities he used. The ability to be immortal, the ability to transform matter, and the ability to ignore physical and mental damage are not purely offensive abilities. It's more like an auxiliary effect. But vaguely, I seem to see some of the direction of his abilities." Black Rose on the side suddenly said, "Not affected by anything." The scholar nodded, "Yes, all his abilities are to prevent himself from being affected. Whether it's attack, death, or mind, it can't affect him. This seems to be the direction of his abilities. It's as if these true destiny abilities were created by him, with a set direction, and everything exists for a purpose. You should all understand what this means. He may have a way to create true destiny." The 3 of them were shocked, and they knew what this meant too well. If you can master the method of creating true destiny, it means invincibility, and you will never die, and true eternity. Half a day later, Lin Yi and the others returned to Furong City. This incident made Zhao Hengxia and Lin Yi and the others wary. Everything was going on in an orderly manner in the Wanqi house. There are still many guests coming here to enjoy afternoon tea every day. When they are free, they continue their work, or try to find their true destiny, or continue to study those strange events. This time, Lao Wei and his son were reunited, and Lin Yi used the mysterious light to revive his son. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1246. Sakuramiya Shirley's grandfather and the head maid were also revived, and basically all those who belonged to the Eurozwaya camp were revived. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. As for the remaining mysterious light, it was used by Lin Yi again to increase his spiritual wave limit. The increase in spiritual wave also extended his combat time again. A trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. Since the doomsday cult has set its sights on me, I'm afraid there will be more actions next. The fight with those three guys did make me feel a little pressure. Unlike all the enemies I encountered before, the combined power of multiple true destiny is quite powerful, and the upper limit of each of them is also very high, at least 1/5 of my amount. I need to crack more strange stories and greatly increase the upper limit of spiritual waves again. If you want to kill the strong true destiny, the method is actually very simple. With pure volume, combined with true destiny, all-round suppression, even if the opponent pushes the true destiny to the limit, it will not be able to resist my true destiny attack, and then it will naturally go to death. In fact, he had already figured out the battle of true destiny. In the final analysis, putting aside the mutual generation and mutual restraint, it is a pure competition of volume. The strong win, the weak die. It can be expressed in one sentence. Prove the truth with force. After taking a deep breath, Lin Yi appeared in the basement alone. He was going through a series of strange stories. D-level strange stories that could be easily solved had already been solved. The rest would take time or various attempts to solve. Therefore, his eyes were already on C-level and even B-level strange stories. Among them, there were only about 276 C-level strange stories worldwide. Each of them was a tragic incident that could cause hundreds of casualties. More than half of them appeared randomly and had a long time interval, making it difficult to track their whereabouts. Only a part of them could be found at any time, and now he had to find the easiest part to solve. Soon, the C-level strange stories were screened again by him, and one strange story was selected by him. He had only solved a strange story close to a C-level event, which added about 10 minutes of normal true fate state. So he wanted to really solve a C-level event to see how much spiritual waves a C-level event could bring. Looking at the information on the screen, Lin Yi's eyes fell into a slight contemplation. This is a very dangerous ghost story, but it has a possible flaw. If this flaw can be used, it will be possible to complete this ghost story event, which can save a lot of time. In the end, he decided to try to solve this C-level event. But it didn't end after the selection. His eyes looked at the information list of B-level events. B-level events are dangerous ghost stories that can destroy a city. There are about 300 of them in the world, but they are all dormant for various reasons, or the time for them to appear has not yet come. Each of these 300 events is thrilling and can make Lin Yi feel a huge danger. But Lin Yi is still looking for a suitable target. He wants to measure the mysterious brilliance gap that can be produced by the 3-level ghost story events of B, C, and D. But this is not a simple matter. If he makes the wrong choice, he may die once. Time always passes quickly. In a blink of an eye, a night has passed, and Lin Yi also has his own goals. C-level ghost story Fengmen Village incident. B-level ghost story Shuqing Tomb incident. Both of these incidents are in the Shuzhong area where Furong City is located, which is very close to Lin Yi and can be solved. First, he decided to go to Fengmen Village, a small village 100 kilometers outside Furong City. However, the village has been abandoned for 30 years because of a strange incident 30 years ago, which caused the entire village to disappear. Until now, this is an unsolved mystery. No one knows what happened that night. It is only known that no one has come out since then. But in the records of the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau, some information is clearly recorded. As for the B-level incident, the Shuqing Mausoleum ghost story is located in the northern suburbs of Furong. Because the threat is greater, he has to stay behind to deal with it. The ghost story of Fengmen Village appears on the 15th of each month. Once you enter the area of Fengmen Village at this time, you will disappear. In the past 30 years, a God-given person once entered it, but he never came back. And the God-given person's best power is to avoid danger. He has a natural ability to avoid any danger, but he still disappeared in the end. After the target was determined, the time came to September 15th in a blink of an eye. This time, Lin Yi did not notify anyone. At 6 o'clock in the evening, he quietly used the True Destiny and left the Wanchaiwa through the underground. When he arrived in front of the ruins of Fengmen village, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. Fengmen village is located in a small valley, surrounded by small hills on all sides, and there is only one path leading into the village. It is like a paradise isolated from the outside world. Lin Yi stood at the entrance of the path and looked around. The grass and trees here are very strange, and they all look a little gloomy and abnormal. He looked up at the sky. Today's moon is very round and big, casting a faint silver glow. Inexplicably, there is an unknown eerie. Suddenly, a fog came from nowhere, covering the entire valley and the road ahead. In Lin Yi's eyes, the light of the True Destiny solution flickered slightly, and he was surprised to find that this fog was full of mysterious power. Countless black lines surged in the fog, making his True Destiny solution unable to see through at a glance. After thinking about it, he did not rush in, but circled around this hill. Observe the place where Fengmen village is located from all sides, the sky, and even underground. But he didn't see anything. The whole village seemed to be sealed by an extremely powerful force. And this power all came from those black lines. He carefully observed the black lines and collected some information. They were all screams and fears, murmuring to themselves, which seemed to come from the original people in this village. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and a trace of thought appeared in his eyes. So should I go in or not? Lin Yi thought, with countless thoughts flashing in his eyes. This Fengmen village is not simple. He smelled a hint of danger. But in the end, a hint of determination flashed in his eyes. Since I'm here, I might as well go. Thinking of this, he suddenly reached out and pulled off a few strands of hair, and then put them under a tree in the distance. He needed to leave body tissue outside this strange incident. Once he died inside, he could use the body tissue outside to choose a place for resurrection. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1247. This is the ability of the immortality of the True Destiny, which is not just resurrection on the spot, repairing damage, etc. Read. You can even choose to be reborn in different places according to the prior reservation, a very powerful True Destiny. After doing all the precautions, he stepped out and walked into the fog. The moment he entered the fog, he felt as if he had passed through a mysterious film and entered another world. This path was very quiet, and he walked forward step by step, with thoughts flashing in his eyes. There was a fog all around, and under his feet was a bluestone road covered with moss, and insects could be seen crawling from time to time. Lin Yi walked on this bluestone path, step by step into the hill. Soon he came to the entrance of the village. After arriving here, the fog seemed to dissipate a lot, and then he saw a scene that surprised him. The village was very lively, with gongs and drums, as if something was going on. Lin Yi looked carefully and did not move randomly. An ordinary middle-aged villager came over and looked at him with joy on his face. "Friend, there is a happy event in our village today. Are you from outside?" Lin Yi had a smile on his face. "Yes, I am from outside." Everything in his eyes was made up of black lines. "A guest is a guest. Do you want to join our event?" Lin Yi smiled. "Sure." The villagers smiled even more. "Then follow me." As he said, he walked into the village with Lin Yi with a smile on his face. Lin Yi also followed him as if he had lost something. There were more and more people around, and the sound of gongs and drums became louder and louder. Until they came to the source of the sound, a stage appeared in the center of the village. At this time, a play was being performed on the stage, which was Farewell My Concubine. Dozens of villagers were sitting in the audience, all with smiles on their faces. These people were wearing costumes similar to those of the Republic of China. Very special. At this time, Lin Yi also sat on a bench. Someone brought him fruits. Lin Yi took a look and did not move. All the people around him were looking at the stage, and no one paid attention to him, but he vaguely felt that everyone seemed to be looking at him. He looked around and noticed that on the left, there was a family with lanterns and red scarves hanging, which seemed to be holding a red event. The whole village looked very strange. In his eyes, everything was made up of black lines. All the people he saw so far were like this, without any exception. Lin Yi muttered in his heart, thinking about what was going on. At this moment, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the farewell my concubine on the stage seemed to have come to the end. Yu Ji committed suicide, and the king of Chu came to an end. The laughter and the beating of gongs and drums seemed to end at this moment. The curtain on the stage slowly fell, and an old woman wearing a white sacrificial robe suddenly appeared there. She said loudly in a hoarse and piercing voice, "Dear fellow villagers, today is a good day. It's the annual day again, and the groom has arrived. Let's send him to marry the bride. Okay, ha ha ha. Mary, enter the bridal chamber." Various noisy voices continued to ring, and the people around seemed to be crazy, with strange smiles on their faces. Lin Yi suddenly found that several people appeared beside him, grabbing him, holding a set of bright red groom's clothes in their hands. They seemed to want to put the clothes on themselves. Lin Yi showed a hint of surprise on his face. But he did not refuse, he wanted to see what was going on. Soon he was dressed and walked to the house on the left that was full of red scarves. There were fanatical people all around, and their eyes were looking at him hotly. Lin Yi did not speak, but quietly came to the yard under their guidance. This is a typical farmhouse, and the hall is very strange. There were 2 tablets on the table, and the wedding hall was decorated with red scarves everywhere. Red candles were burning, and people with fanatical faces appeared here one by one. This wedding hall was filled with weirdness and horror. Lin Yi looked carefully at the 2 tablets on the table. Father Hua Zhenshan. Mother Zhangmiu. At this time, a trumpet sounded outside, and the voice of the master of ceremonies was high-pitched and sharp. The bride is here. Hearing this, Lin Yi turned his head slightly and looked behind him. Surrounded by a group of people outside, an old woman in a white robe walked in. However, he was holding a tablet in his hand, and there were red silk flowers on the tablet, which just covered the top of the tablet. The hanging silk scarf blocked the name of the tablet, making it difficult for him to see clearly. This scene looked so weird that Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of solemnity. But he was still not nervous, and watched everything calmly. Soon the old woman came to his side with the tablet, and a middle-aged man in a black robe also walked in. He also held a spirit tablet in his hand, and forced it into Lin Yi's hand. Lin Yi looked down at the name on the spirit tablet, Funan Boshan. Lin Yi's eyes showed a bit of weirdness, he felt as if he had become someone's substitute. The man in black came in front of the altar, and a sharp and high-pitched voice rang out. The wedding officially begins. First bow to heaven and earth. Lin Yi frowned slightly when he heard the voice and looked around. All the people stared at him and his people, with a strange look in their eyes and faces. Lin Yi thought about it and decided to follow the ceremony first to see what the ending would be. Second, bow to the parents. Husband and wife bow to each other. After a set of ceremonies, it took only a few minutes, and nothing happened. At this time, the voice of the master of ceremonies sounded again. Sent to the bridal chamber. Lin Yi was. Under the recommendation of the people around him, he passed through the front hall and came to the back hall. There was a corridor here, and he and 2 spirit tablets were sent into the room. The room was decorated with a bright red. Lin Yi sat alone on the bed. There was a spirit tablet on the table in front of him. Only then did he see the words written on it clearly. Wife Huanang Yu. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny, and the surroundings were still composed of black lines. So far, He has not seen any pure matter. There was no sound outside, and the whole world seemed to have become dead silent. Creak. Suddenly, the door slowly made a friction sound, and the door was opened, and a figure appeared outside the door. It was a figure wearing a black and red wedding dress, with a black hood on his head, black nails on both hands, and the skin on his palms was snow white. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1248. There was no trace of blood in this pale hand. Red. The figure slowly walked in, and the door slammed shut. The room fell into darkness and silence again. The red candle on the table changed the moment the door was closed, the burning flame turned green, and the whole room became eerie. Lin Yi looked at the scene with a calm expression in his eyes. He didn't say anything, just looked at the strange figure in front of him quietly. The figure walked towards him slowly, with a very beautiful swaying figure, and sat beside him softly. A delicate voice slowly sounded, "Husband, it's getting late, we should rest." An aura full of ancient charm filled the air, and the owner of this voice was like an ancient person. From the way he addresses himself to how he speaks, everything is completely different from modern people. Lin Yi didn't move, just looked at the figure quietly, his eyes very calm. Suddenly, I heard him say, "Let me ask you a question, why has everyone in this village disappeared?" After asking this question, Lin Yi looked at the figure quietly, waiting for her answer. For a while, the woman didn't say a word. Lin Yi frowned slightly. He was just thinking about what to say when the woman suddenly spoke. "Ms. Sir, let me tell you a story." When Lin Yi heard this, a faint smile appeared on his face. "I'm all ears." The woman's voice is clear and moving, full of a wonderful rhythm that makes people intoxicated. Many, many years ago there was a village called Fengmen Village. There is a tradition that has been passed down in this village. Every 16 years, a sacrifice must be made to the legendary mountain god. The object of sacrifice is a virgin, the bride of the mountain god. After the sacrifice, the entire village will receive huge benefits. Their lives will be extended by 16 years. But the object of sacrifice must be the villager's child. Every family has had daughters as sacrifices over a long period of time. The number of people in Fengmen village will always be only 50, and the 50th person among them will always be a girl, and the girl born will always be the one who is sacrificed. Whenever the sacrifice is over, other families in Fengmen village will give birth to a girl, and when she grows up, she will become a sacrifice. Until 30 years ago, an outsider came to settle in the village. The outsider was ostracized, but he fell in love with a girl from the village. But that year happened to be the 16th year of sacrifices, and this girl happened to be the sacrifice. But the girl discovers something is wrong and she discovers the terrible hidden history of the village's past. Then the girl told the man and asked him to take her out of the village and report the evil deeds in the village. The man from outside didn't believe it at first, but after quietly investigating, he found that it was all true. The man decided to run away with the girl, and the girl was very happy because she liked the man very much. She fantasizes about being able to live a happy life like a normal person after escaping. But they soon discovered that someone was watching them, and it was almost impossible for them to escape safely. So they carefully calculated and looked for the most suitable opportunity. But they never had the chance until the day of the sacrifice. The girl was dressed up beautifully, and then a worship ceremony was held. The girl was surprised to find that the man she was worshipping with was the man she loved. It's just that the person he loved has turned into a corpse with a mountain god's ranking tied to his body. Yes, the man has become the substitute of the mountain god, and this is the process of sacrifice. Every 16 years, an outsider will come and let him fall in love with a girl. When the time is right, he will kill the man, turn him into a substitute for the mountain god, and marry the girl. The girl was so desperate that she took out a hairpin from her head and pierced her heart with one blow. With boundless resentment, she chose to be buried and died. But the girl did not really die, but turned into an unknown existence after that. In order to take revenge, she wiped out the entire Fengmen village. Originally, she wanted to find the mysterious mountain god, kill him, and avenge herself. It was its existence that led to the tragedy of the entire Fengmen village. But she found nothing. The mountain god never seemed to exist. The girl wandered around Fengmen village day after day, and the people she killed seemed to have become his slaves, and the scene of that day was replayed every day. The girl's resentment can never be cleared away. She will make everyone immersed in pain forever to pay for their sins. Until one day, outsiders entered the place where the girl was. Hope arose in the girl's heart, and he hoped to hold a formal wedding. She thinks that since the mountain god can find someone to be a stand-in, then the person she loves can also find someone to be a stand-in. So, she asked the villagers to capture the person who came in and use him as a stand-in for her loved one. Go to the church and get married with yourself and become a real couple. Live a happy life and make up for your regrets. Do you think she did the right thing? At this time, Xuanhuan's voice has become cold, without any emotion, as if a machine is asking him. The head covered with the veil has already looked at Lin Yi, as if waiting for his answer. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and a faint smile appeared in his eyes. The first half, the girl is right, these people deserve to die. Using other people's lives to prolong their own lives, destroying other people's lives to fulfill themselves, they deserve to die anyway. But the girl should rest in peace after revenge, but she wants to use other people to fulfill her last wish, which is wrong. Is there any difference between her and those who want to kill him? No. Don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. This is the truth that the sages have already said. Xuanhuan turned her head slightly and looked at her own spirit tablet. But she was unwilling to accept it. Why did he only have 16 years to live? Why couldn't he have a beautiful future? Why did he have to be sacrificed in the end? It's the world's fault, and the world should pay the price. So you should stay and be my husband. Become a substitute for my husband. At this time, Xuanhuan was still sitting there, looking at Lin Yi quietly. Her tone did not change at all, as if she was talking about an ordinary thing. Lin Yi laughed, that won't work. Because I have no interest in living with the dead. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1249. Hearing Lin Yi's answer, Xuanhuan said in a low voice, but I think that's enough. Lin Yi smiled faintly, then we can't reach an agreement. Xuanhuan laughed strangely, he. Stay here. As she spoke, she had already raised her right hand and lifted her veil. Under the black veil was a pale face, without any expression, as cold as an iceberg. But it was indeed a very beautiful face, without a trace of blood, as pale as porcelain, giving people a feeling of a doll. A pair of dark eyes looked at Lin Yi quietly, as if waiting for his answer. Lin Yi smiled faintly, you don't have to look at me like this, no matter how beautiful you are. Since you are dead, go to Reincarnation. This world is not suitable for you to stay any longer. After hearing Lin Yi's words, Xuanhuan's beautiful face suddenly began to change. First, it was gloomy, then slowly lowered her head, and a low muttering sound suddenly sounded. Why are you always like this? Why can't you do what I want? I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. The breath of terror permeated from her body, and the next moment she raised her head. At this time, her face had become hideous, no, even if you don't want to. Countless hairs were flying behind him, and instantly turned into ropes, covering Lin Yi. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny, and he instantly saw through what these hairs were. These hairs were all made up of black lines, and they were not ordinary substances at all. The hairs covered him and instantly submerged him. Lin Yi frowned slightly, and the power of the boundless true destiny flashed, and the next moment he disappeared in the room, and appeared again 100 meters away. He stood in the open space of the village and saw a terrifying scene. There were wooden sticks standing in the whole village, and these wooden sticks were all stuck with dried corpses. Judging from their clothes, they were all villagers of this village. Obviously, they had died long ago, and were dried up by the wind, and they could not rest in peace even after death. A terrifying black hair gushed out from a house not far away. The hair followed his trail, as fast as lightning, and even crossed the space and appeared directly around him. Lin Yi kept flashing, avoiding waves of attacks. The source of his true destiny flashed in his hand, and he grabbed a handful of hair. These hairs were grabbed, and the power of the source of true destiny enveloped them. The next moment, these hairs all turned into fragile flying ashes. The nature of their composition was changed and turned into ashes. Lin Yi nodded with satisfaction. Even these black lines were not impossible to transform. Ghost stories follow a condition, that is, the strength of the power determines who affects whom. Maybe the power of ghost stories is another form of true destiny. He could see that Xuanhuan just now also had a twisted true destiny in her body. And that true destiny was not one, but two, which made two possibilities. One is that this woman was born with two true destinies, and the other is that this woman has merged other true destinies. But no matter which one, this guy is not easy to deal with. Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of solemnity, and his eyes narrowed slightly. This time he came to fight with the sea-level ghost story. Facing countless black long hair, after flashing a few times, he suddenly disappeared in the open ground. His speed was extremely fast, and it was not something that humans could react to. When he appeared again, he had reappeared in the wedding room, just behind Xuanhuan. A hand stretched out silently and grabbed into Xuanhuan's body. His target was the twisted true destiny, and he wanted to see if he could grab the true destiny from the other party's body. But just when he was about to touch Xuanhuan, something weird happened. An invisible thing suddenly appeared in his body. In an instant, he felt as if he was controlled from the inside out, and an alternative consciousness appeared in his body. "Husband, you are finally here." Lin Yi's heart moved, and he had already said a word. "Nanyu, you have been waiting for a long time." With a creepy feeling, Lin Yi immediately realized that he was possessed by something. The one who possessed him was the person that Xuanhuan originally loved, his husband Nan Bashan. What's going on? Has this person also become a ghost story? Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of surprise. The other party silently invaded his body and even controlled him. He felt an evil force coming towards his mind, as if to completely occupy his body. His brows frowned slightly, and the power of his true destiny rose to another level. This evil force immediately lost his spiritual trace and could no longer touch his spiritual level, and could only sweep through his body. The power of Lin Yi's boundless true destiny flashed slightly, and immediately disintegrated this force. Looking down at his body, he didn't know when an extra true destiny appeared. This true destiny was surprisingly the one in Xuanhuan's body. He immediately realized what was going on. Their true destiny is actually in the same body. This is really magical. Logically speaking, their enemies have been eliminated, and the source of their resentment should have been disintegrated. But Xuanhuan and Nan Bashan still haven't disappeared. There must be other logical roots between them. Get married and enjoy the life of a couple? Is this the root of why they still won't dissipate? Thinking of this, he was thoughtful, as if he knew what the root of these two guys was. But there is another question. Many people have come in before me, and there is no shortage of men among them. They should have completed things like getting married and enjoying married life a long time ago. but their roots still don't seem to disappear. What's going on? Then getting married and living a happy life are not their roots. Their logical chain is always imperfect, there must be information that I don't know. Since cutting off the logical root doesn't work, try to forcibly destroy their existence. My power was not enough before, so I couldn't try to forcibly destroy it. But now I can try. Thinking of this, he immediately took action. He reached into his body and grabbed the evil destiny that appeared in his body. He pulled hard and pulled the destiny out and held it in his hand. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1250. The evil power in his body was dissipating at the same time. Read. Countless hairs had already wrapped around him when he couldn't move, all from Xuanhuan. But Lin Yi's sudden outburst made Xuanhuan slightly stunned. When Xuanhuan saw the true destiny in Lin Yi's hand, she went crazy in an instant. "Give my husband back to me, give it back to me." The voice instantly changed from crisp to hideous and crazy. She seemed to know that this true destiny was Nanboshan. The extremely violent black silk thread merged into her hair and swept towards Lin Yi. It was a terrifying power that instantly overwhelmed his boundless true destiny, entangled the true destiny in his hand, and suddenly dragged it back into Xuanhuan's body. And Lin Yi's boundless true destiny also reached a new level. At this time, he was illusory all over, and he flashed in front of Xuanhuan. He slapped her forehead with one palm. The power of the root of the true destiny exploded in an instant, covering her whole body. Countless material transformations began, and in just a moment, she turned into a stone statue. From the inside to the outside, all the structures became real, except for the true destiny. Xuanhuan's true destiny seemed to block the power of the root of the true destiny, even though his true destiny had been eroded by countless strange black lines. Facing this sudden attack, Xuanhuan was completely unable to reach it. This attack also consumed half of Lin Yi's spiritual wave, which consumed a lot. Adding the true destiny consumed in the previous fight, his true destiny was about 2/5 left at this time. His figure flashed again, and he had already moved away from the petrified statue, watching quietly. The light of the true destiny in his eyes kept flashing, and he kept observing the changes of the statue. He could see that the two true destinies in the statue were vibrating wildly, and countless black lines were gushing out of it. In just a moment, the stone statue shattered, and countless black lines gathered again, turning into the appearance of Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan looked angry and let out a terrifying roar. "You deserve to die, I'm going to kill you." At this time, she was still wearing the black and red classical wedding dress, and her hair was flying behind her like arms with life. Xuanhuan raised her hands slightly, and the nails of her 5 fingers were all black, as if she wanted to strangle someone to death. Her eyes were completely covered by darkness, her face was twisted, and she was flashing with endless hostility, looking at Lin Yi. The next moment, countless hairs swept towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi keenly discovered the problem. From beginning to end, Xuanhuan's breath did not weaken at all, and it was still so terrifying and powerful. Lin Yi sighed slightly, his figure flashed, and he turned into a stream of light and disappeared here. True Destiny Perseverance and True Destiny Boundless were running to the extreme, shielding all power. He had to leave the scope of Fengmen village temporarily, and the current situation was not suitable for staying any longer. After a few flashes, he had come to the fog, which was also composed of countless black lines. As if it were a unique domain, the distorted time and space allowed anyone to enter but not leave. Of course, this kind of restraint still had little effect on Lin Yi. In just a flash, he passed through the blockade, and when he appeared again, he had returned to the outside of the mountain. He looked at the mist in front of him, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. At this time, there was a turbulence in the mist, as if something was rushing out. A figure floated in the mist, and a pair of black eyes stared at him, full of resentment. But countless black lines were tightly wrapped around the woman, as if she was bound in the mist, unable to take a step. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi thought, interesting, this strange incident seems to be restricted here and cannot move. His eyes carefully observed the black lines that bound the woman. These black lines emit some scattered information. Damn woman, you dare to kill us, I want you to stay here with us forever. Ha ha ha, die with us. The mountain god will not let you leave, stay here with us and become our eternal slave. Mountain god, help us catch this woman, make her pay the price here forever, and avenge us. The crazy roar was full of malice and curses. These black lines exuded waves of unbearable horror. Lin Yi saw this scene, and a trace of thought appeared in his eyes. The whole strange story has a key point, the mountain god. Although the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau seems to have investigated this mountain god, there is no clue. Logically speaking, it should not exist. This is a materialistic world. So far, there is no immortality. Even the gods who have mastered the power of true destiny will die when their lifespan comes to an end. But the people in this village have extended their lifespan through continuous sacrifices. This is a very abnormal thing in itself. I understand. The root of all the logical chains of this woman should be the mysterious mountain god. If there is no mountain god, all these tragedies will not happen. So what is the mountain god? Why does it exist here? Why does he let these villagers come to sacrifice? What can he get? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, and Lin Yi vaguely felt that he seemed to have caught something. After thinking for a few minutes, he thought, how can I find this existence called the mountain god? First, we need to isolate this guy's site. The clue should be in the village. Thinking of this, Lin Yi turned around and disappeared here, hiding directly to avoid being continuously watched by Xuanhuan. At the same time, he began to silently restore his consumed spiritual waves. Half a day passed in a blink of an eye, and Lin Yi had recovered to his prime. He quietly displayed the boundless true destiny and the perseverance of true destiny, and came to a hill outside the village. Looking at the mountainous area of the village shrouded in dense fog, he disappeared here with a slight flash. He had sneaked into the underground, and quickly came to the underground position of the village like a ghost. There was no fog here, and no black lines. This was a normal space. His eyes flashed with the brilliance of the true destiny, and he saw through the ground and quickly locked a house. There are about 16 houses in the whole village, one of which belongs to Xuanhuan's family. The other 14 belong to other people in the village, and there is a very unique house located in the south of the village. Since ancient times, there is a saying that the south is called the lonely, which means one thing, honorable.